Welcome to the second of our 2022 Reignited Downtown Safety Education and Information Session. Before we go any further, I would like to read the line of the The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we gathered on the lands of Blackfoot people who Canadian claims, and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships with the land. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Jason over to the stage. Jason is the ED for the local Indigenous Recovery Coaching Program. Jason is a qualified Indigenous Recovery Coach who has worked in corporation and strong profession for over 31 years. Her firm has worked extensively with Indigenous communities throughout his career. In this work, Jason brings compassion to those in vulnerable situations. Jason has the privilege of sharing his experience on the meaning of the country, released in 2021 and written directly by Maureen and Samantha Skelt will join Jason today. She has worked as program coordinator for the IOC since May 2022. Before that, she worked as resident coordinator for Washington City and New Orleans. The Indigenous Recovery Coaching Program is a First Nations-led recovery program that connects clients with their Blackfoot culture through ceremonies and meetings with coaches, while also conducting outreach to the community. Jason's presentation today will be perspective to the impact of corporation addiction. It is not heavily supported by the vertical religious community. So I'm very interested in exciting thought-provoking presentation. Finally, please join me in thanking the Lethbridge Chamber and the City of Lethbridge CSD Department for their partnership with the Downtown Revitalization Zone in hosting the Downtown Safety Education. Now, please join me in welcoming Jason Shaundra.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if I need the mic or not. I can talk very loud and our audience isn't that big. As mentioned, my name is Jason Avery. I have 38 years of being a firefighter, paramedic, manager, worked in the office of the fire commissioner out of Edmonton for 10 years as the assistant fire commissioner. So, had the privilege of working with a lot of Indigenous communities, actually all 46 within our province. At different times in my career. I've been very fortunate or unfortunate. I was involved or was at the Slate Lake fire in 2011, the Southern Alberta floods in 2013, Fort McMurray fire 2016, and then the Keenan fire. So during my career, I've been able to be a part of a lot of the major events in the province, other than the Rental Operations Center, on the ground in Fort McMurray, or in Sitka during the floods, as well as some of the nations up north during the big fire. You do a quick survey, and there's sometimes children in the house, so you move the children away, and you start doing CPR on the adults that have overdosed. Who gets the treatment first? Who gets the Narcan first? And so this has now been a 9 to 10 year experience for me as a first responder, Now I am dealing with it more as an administrator, but I have taken it upon myself to go out and work in the encampment. When that encampment was set up, I could tell you who was sitting in every tent, what drug they may have taken or used, how many are staying in there, male or female. So now they want to do a mass count of the homeless. But now we've scattered the homeless throughout the city. We had them within one area, or a good portion of them, probably 75%. And one of the fallacies was a majority is indigenous. That's not true. Maybe 50% of the population inside that encampment were indigenous peoples. The rest were non-indigenous from as far away as Manitoba, BC, Northern Alberta, Saskatchewan, not all from Lethbridge. Lethbridge is a good spot if you are homeless because of our weather, not today, but most of the time our weather conditions are conducive to encampments. And you go down to LA, which I've gone down to the encampments in LA, and I've walked to them because I've taken a passion to know what it's like. I've taken a passion in San Diego to go down and walk to the encampments and talk to the individuals. So I can bring my experiences back up to what we are doing in Southern Alberta. And those that are giving advice are not willing to listen to some of those of us that may have a little bit of knowledge and background on encampments. And provision with no care, no compassion. People are more in for the dollar than they are for the outcome. So those are some of the things that I've identified in my short time working in the city. Post-secondary. So in order to become a paramedic, become a nurse, psychologist, any of these things, when I applied at grade 12, they looked at my GPA, and my GPA is really good. I get into the program. But no street experience, no volunteer experience. Volunteer experience may be one of the prerequisites on there, but they've got no people skills. They can't carry on a conversation. So you go on an EMS call and you know to go head to toe, but you need to ask the questions. You need to make sure you're asking the why. How did we end up in this situation? And an emergency is different to me than it is to you, than it is to Samantha. Everybody has a different definition of an emergency. And if we've taken the training that we are going to be a first responder or care for people in any type of customer service, they're a customer, they're a client, they're a patient. It doesn't matter if I own a store or if I'm in an ambulance or if I'm in a hospital. It's customer service that we have to provide. And that is not something that you can teach. It's in our upbringing. Some of the things I've noticed is everybody's in a hurry to get back to their station, whether it's a fire station, your station at a nursing desk, and then we can gossip and laugh about our patient. There is no room for that. You can discuss the outcomes because every patient there's a lesson learned. Every customer there's a lesson learned. But don't make fun of it because that's one of the reasons why I retired from the fire EMS role is because I was tired. I couldn't change that attitude that was being taught to them from their preceptors, from their schools. If we don't break the cycle, it's going to continue. But right now, people just don't have the care and compassion. Addiction crisis versus a health emergency. I believe this is a health emergency. It's not a crisis. It's a failure within the system. There's a lot of factors that we'll go through, but when a diabetic takes their or misses their insulin or their metformin, is that an addiction issue or an addiction crisis, or is that a medical emergency? So this individual was diagnosed with diabetes, and they have to take insulin on a daily basis. But they forget to take it for one reason or another. We'll say in this case because I had alcohol Saturday and Sunday, and I forgot to take my insulin. Is this an addiction issue because I had beer on Saturday, Sunday, and I didn't take my insulin? Or is this an addiction crisis? Well, I believe they're all health emergencies. They're medical emergencies. Hypertension, I've got high blood pressure, I don't take my medication, I call an ambulance. They don't say that it's because I have an addiction issue, because I have to take medication every day. They say it's a health emergency. That's why I got called. So why do we say that those that are using drugs, it's an addiction crisis? It's a health emergency. We're missing the mark. Because if we can get somebody to get on Suboxone or methadone or Sublocade, that's their new life. The same as these individuals that have to take their insulin, that have to take their medications for their high blood pressure. Their new normal. So what is harm reduction? It's to eliminate, and this is my definition, it's not from Webster's dictionary, to eliminate self others from providing damage to one's person. So again, if I'm a diabetic, I want to prevent damage to myself, so I'm going to take my insulin on a daily basis. The reason I do that is I don't want to go into a diabetic emergency and starve my brain for oxygen, and then there'll be other ramifications later on. So I take my medication, I take my Sublocade, I take my Suboxone, take my methadone. Harm reduction, nasal Narcan. I'm a big believer in the nasal Narcan. It's 5 times stronger than the injection, and I'm not providing any type of needle out into the parks or into the community, and or providing them any type of possible use to use with any legal substance. If I give them a nasal, it's just a little white thing that they can leave in the park, and there's no harm to a child if they pick it up. So to me, I'm very big on the nasal Narcan. Providing a place for that individual to feel confident, comfortable with the surroundings to start impacting their revolution to recovery. They need to be trusted. They have to be trusted. Samantha and myself spent the better part of 6 months when we started in this program getting to know the individuals that stay on the streets. Those that are less fortunate, to sit down and have a cup of coffee, to know who they are, to hear their story. Because once they gain that trust, then they start to come into our program. So we planted the seed out in the community, and then we started to water them, we started to nurture, we started to feed them. And in the 6 months, the people we've sent to detox, to recovery, to treatment centers, is phenomenal because it gained our trust. And relapse is part of recovery. We can never place judgment. I wasn't put on this earth to judge anybody. And I always tell everybody, I hope people are talking about me because then I'm not talking about somebody else. Because it's human nature to talk about people. So talk about Jason, so you're not talking about other individuals. But don't place judgment on those that we see walking around the streets. Maybe it's to stop and ask, what do you need? Are you okay? Is there anywhere we can guide you to? Can we call the doctor? Can we walk you over to the IRC office? Those are the type of things. I'm not big into the panhandle. But if somebody comes and asks me, you got some money? No, I don't. But I've got a sidewalk that needs shoveled. I've got some grass that needs mowed. And now, the individuals that come into our place of business never ask us for money. Do you have any work for me? And we'll always find something. Whether it's pulling weeds or raking weeds, there's something for them to do. Do the dishes, because it gives them some sense of worth. You can. So, There was several suggestions for the encampment. There was a group that was getting together that finding solutions was our group. And we would all go in and we would brainstorm. And we brainstormed the same thing the whole time I was there, the 6 meetings I believe I went. And this was a group that was going on for at least 18 months. So if you're just spinning your wheels and there's no outcome, there's no measures, why are we meeting? And that was kind of the conclusion at the last meeting. Why are we here talking about the same thing? We're at -20. Finding solutions was to find solutions for the encampment for the winter time, so people don't freeze to death. Well, here we are again, -20. We're in the same situation as we were last winter because there was nobody sitting around that table that could influence the decision makers. We could sit there as all these non-profit outside organizations, but if there's nobody in there to influence the decision makers, don't meet. Because meeting to me just is not worth anybody's time. We're all very busy people, so the meeting stopped, and I believe there's another one maybe tomorrow to kind of wrap things up and find a solution. But the solution is not a sober shelter, because we're dealing with individuals that drink, that use drugs, and that's what you're going to hear in a sober shelter. Right, nobody's going to be in there. It's going to be crickets. You'll have your employees in there, somebody who has been chosen to run it, and no clients. You need to be open-minded enough as a politician, as an elected official, to realize that the only way you're going to make an impact is to make some tough decisions. And those tough decisions will probably be running a shelter. You don't have to allow drugs. You can check it at the door. But people are going to be high. People are going to be impaired when they come in. And it's controlling them. So, in the park, we got to know the clients very well. Client M was a gentleman who was shot while staying at the encampment. Everyone assumes that that shooting was over a drug deal, over a drug. It was over a last name. He kept calling the guy by Bruvall. Quit calling me that. Was a non-Indigenous male. Didn't know. Hey, Bruvall, I told you to quit calling me that. If you call me that again, I'm gonna get you. Hey, Bruvall. Last name was Spear Chief. 170 years ago, there was a bicker between the Brave Rock and the Spear Chief. Spear Chief, how is the traditions carried forward by stories? By stories. He was told by his parents, these Brave Rocks are bad people. So in his mind, he's now a bad person because this non-Indigenous keeps calling him Brave Rock. So Spear Chief went and shot Client M. But these are things that nobody knows, the news doesn't report it. But we were fortunate enough to sit down with Client M and get the story and talk to Spear Chief, who told us his side. So there was no, they may use drugs, yes, but there was no drugs involved with this shooting whatsoever. Client I was a young man that came to Canada on a student visa. He got here, got a student loan, his tuition doubled, and he goes, crap, I want to still go to school, so he paid his tuition, but now he didn't have money for rent. He ended up in the encampment, ended up with a bunch of young Indigenous men and women who looked after him, took him in, but unfortunately, he got into using men. This young man, unfortunately, passed away from an overdose here about a month ago, just outside of Alpha House. The only communication he had with his parents was coming into our place of business, urban indigenous recovery, this young man was from Africa. They allowed him to phone his parents, get back in contact, so they knew what was happening. And like I say, unfortunate thing is 3 days after we allowed him to use our phone, he did pass away from medical emergency. Now the family is trying to fundraise to bring his body back home to be with the spirit. Some of the other experiences that we've had in the park, we worked with the other organizations in the park, and the clients were very comfortable with us. And second to last time that it was being cleaned up and their homes torn apart and thrown in the garbage. I asked, what can we do to help? How can we work with you? And I was told they don't pay taxes, so they can't be in the park. Pointing at my staff, who are all indigenous, and others that are indigenous in the park. That came from a city employee. They don't pay taxes, so they shouldn't be in. Well, that is the wrong attitude. And then that same day, a male come up to Samantha, a city employee, and I quote, "I'm a white male and I have rights too," as he puffed his chest up and threw it towards her. As 2 or 3 of these homeless people seen it, videotaped it, and were going to stop this interaction from happening because we all thought she was actually going to be bombed from a city employee, and that is a quote, and we've listened to the tape several times, and that's exactly what this gentleman said. And then went back to his 3rd-story window and probably watched over his empire. So those that say it's not happening in the city, we have witnessed it ourselves. It's not right. It's got to change. And we're only one organization. There are several organizations in the city that are trying to change it. So, I'm a firm believer, and I'm not an atheist. I believe there is a creator, there is a higher power, but there's no room in recovery for religion. Most of our programs in the city are faith-based, and you need to know who you are, your culture. And it doesn't matter if you're indigenous or non-indigenous. You need to find yourself. When you have one of these medical emergencies, your spirit leaves your body. And then it comes back. So if you don't invite your spirit to come with you, you could have left it down at the golf cart, and then you come over to our place of business. And we can tell when they haven't found themselves, that they left part of themselves behind. And we'll say, was everything okay last night? Yeah, I think I was. Yeah, we did. Where was this at? Because you need to go bring yourself back. You've got to recenter yourself. Because, and it don't matter if it's indigenous or non-indigenous, it's who you are, where you're from, and you need to find that. You need to bring yourself to your core. And it's not about religion. Don't replace one obsession with another. You can't replace your addiction to drugs with addiction to God. You've got to have faith in recovery, but recovery is not about faith. Religion is not the best path. And with a lot of the indigenous population, we've all heard lots about the Catholic Church and what had happened. So why would we want to introduce religion into that portion when they're trying to recover? Addiction does not discriminate age, sex, race, how much money you make, or how successful you are in life. Addiction intertwines its way into society. I sat on the Mental Health and Addictions Council, Advisory Council, for the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, Minister Bruvall, and I got to meet a wonderful lady there, and her story is her husband was abusive, he was an addict, he was a philanthropist, he owned Phoenix Coyotes, billionaire, killed himself because of addiction. Billionaire, owned the Phoenix Coyotes. Karen Cosby, you can Google it. She's got an amazing story. She's got an amazing book out that talks about it. No matter how much money you got, it's still going to take you. It can take you. So, it can happen to any of us. I lost a brother to addictions. Samantha lost a sister to addictions. And that's what probably is driving my passion. I lost a cousin to addictions in Calgary. It takes anybody at any time. And that is it. I will turn it over to Samantha, and she can explain what our program is and what we are doing for the community. And I reiterate, we're urban Indigenous recovery program, but we allow all. As one of the stories says, the young man from Africa, we have a lot of non-Indigenous that come in because they feel they can't get the services elsewhere.
So I'm Samantha. My Indigenous name is Pika Swataki. That's the River woman. I am from the Blood tribe, but I've spent 13 years of my adult life living in Saskatchewan, becoming immersed in the culture there with Free Plains and Soto and Lakota. So a lot of what I learned while living in Saskatchewan through the different organizations and partnerships I've tried to bring here to the Indigenous Recovery Coaching Program. A big part of what I noticed here in the city is lack of engagement within organizations. A lot of organizations working in silos, and we need to continue to strengthen those partnerships in order to have our programs prosper, right, for the right reasons, and have our people benefit from these programs. So coming into the Indigenous Recovery Coaching Program was kind of a cultural shock here coming back to Southern Alberta. There's not a lot of Indigenous organizations, and there's not a lot of Indigenous representation within the organizations that are here. And I'm a firm believer that our Indigenous women need to strive for leadership roles within organizations because we do bring a lot to the table. That role of healthcare comes to us naturally, and we have a lot to bring to the table. And a lot of the suggestions are some people would come to us and say, how can we get these others to involved in our program? My answer is, you hire Indigenous people, they'll bring it in. They'll bring it in. You won't have to worry about where it's coming from, they'll bring it in. When I first started with the program, we had about 3 or 4 elements that we were working with, not consistently. And so what our people need, especially our vulnerable people who make those trusting relationships, is to build relationships with somebody. And not to repeat their stories to multiple people, right? And so one of the suggestions was that we bring in an elder on a contract basis so that we could have those relationships built and strengthened. And it alleviates them having to repeat their trauma and their stories within our program. So right now we have 6 Indigenous recovery coaches. The recovery coach's job, I guess their role is to provide support for people actively working towards recovery. Now what that looks like is from detox, maybe all the way up to treatment, and then we start everyday contact with them, building those relationships, environmental programming, making sure that they're participating in programming. And if they're not, what are the reasons why we're not coming to the program? What can we do differently? What would you like to see within our program? All of our programs are traditionally and culturally based, not Blackfoot specific. It's important to note that our programs are inclusive to all Indigenous people in the community. Our family does not come from Blackfoot competitors, they come from the government. So bringing those aspects into the program can be quite challenging because we're in Green territory. But it hasn't been impossible. And a lot of it is just reaching out to my students. You know, people come in, what would you like to see with that? You know, what type of medicines can we bring them to be inclusive in discussion and offer that to who need it. We also have peer support workers that are there to, so their job is to come out in the community, connect with the people, and invite them back, bring them back to us. You know, give them water, coffee, sit with them, but always ensure that you're leaving with offering an open invitation. Come to our house, you know, come have shower, do laundry, have something to eat. You know, come talk. Our success with that approach has been astronomical. In August, September, we had over 400 people on the website. That was up from June, I believe 60 people. And all it took was to get out there on your feet, to get in the community, to show your face, to introduce yourself, and be genuine. You know, they know when somebody's not genuine, who's just there to get information or just to hand out things. You know, be genuine in your interactions because we don't know if that's the last time we're going to see that person, right? We also have Jason Avery, who's the director, myself, the program coordinator. My job is to basically just figure out what's working and what's not within our program and try to bring in new, fresh ideas and take the advice of the team. We operate under a team, and so everybody brings something to the table. We all have experiences from past and whatever even our life experiences that are useful in moving forward. And if it doesn't work, okay, we'll try something else. I just got news that we were successful in securing funding for a duration team. Now what that's going to look like is the people that aren't eligible for our program, because we are an employee program, you have to be in the public where you people goods to access our facility and our coaches. But those 400 people that walked through the door, they weren't eligible for our program, either because they're not on opioids and they're alcohol addiction, or they're not patient. They don't self-identify as a patient. But they still need help. There still are people. So this funding will open the doors for our diversion team to go out in the community and spend that time with them, assessing their needs. Okay, what is your needs for today? Sheltering. Okay, we have needs support. Let's contact the shelters. Who has space? Will they do or will help our food? Go to the event. So just trying to brainstorm those ideas of what it's going to look like for our diversion team. It's exciting. I'm excited to have them and train them and to bring them up in our community because the need is there. The need is so high within the city. And it's quite disappointing having to, drive around now to go meet people, whereas we just walk out the door, down the street, and they're there. So that's what our program is like. We offer daily programming Monday to Friday or Thursday. What we do, our facility is open Monday to Friday with the possibility of being on Monday now with our diversion team. And we serve breakfast and lunch with an open kitchen. We have a shower and an open laundry facility for them to use. And we just try to maintain that trusting relationship. It's been challenging, not easy, but we're building that trust and I'm so excited for the program that has an offer.
Does anybody have any questions for us, things in the course of that?
I mean, I know we're a very small crowd today, whether it can help. What I think we will do, and we've spoken to Jason and Spencer about this, is next year when we run once a month, we will invite these folks back and we'll have a much better meeting time, which is what the advertising and that kind of thing. So, thanks, Helen.
Thank you both for a fascinating presentation. Really opened our eyes and
It truly is so important to be able to use other people's perspectives, put some cultural bias aside, to be able to really see something that I'm a part of. So, thank you so much. And I'm absolutely dedicated to bringing back because what you have said to us today was far too valuable to say no.
so we move forward with our
Alright? That brings to a close our session today. Please let us know at least 6 minutes. And thank you so much. Oh, in terms of we have 2 more presentations between now and the end of the year. Excuse me. On December 6th, Andrew Malcolm from the Urban Revitalization Department of the City will be talking about all the incentives and grants and programs that are available for downtown businesses to maintain safety and quality within our businesses. And then on the 13th, we've got Jeff Gold from The Watch coming in to talk to us about what that very valuable team does. And I would suggest making sure that you